we ask Allah to also to grant all those that's passed on high places in Jannah, inshallah. You know, there was a few people that passed away in our group as well. So it is just now a side note, but I just thought I'd mention that. But nevertheless, Ibrahim,
we're ready?
We're ready.
Imam Shafi.
Imam Shafi, yes, inshallah.
We're now off to a place called the Dead City. And this is normally the wow factor of the travels, because here you will meet of the poorest of poor in this particular city in Egypt. The poorest of the poor. Just to, are we still good for time? Because they keep on showing me the time. I can't remember which year it was, but there was one year when we were walking and we were on our way to the Ziyarat, and then there was this huge dump place, you know, and it was smelly, and we were walking past and it was filled with flies. And then I just paused for a moment, you know, just to reflect, kind of, yo, kyk hoe lyk dit hier. And then for that moment that I was pausing and I'm actually zooming in to this place of dump, all this rubble and all this flies that is surrounding the place, and I'm zooming in and I see an elderly lady sitting in that dump, scratching, looking for food amongst that, all that dirt, and every time she lifts her hand, the flies just comes up from it. That was a moment that my heart melted and crumbled into pieces, to think how fortunate we are to have what we have, not to see our parents go through lengths like that just to have something to eat. So this place is usually a place where a lot of your gratitude comes up for what we have, and this is the beauty of traveling. For myself, that you go to different environments, different civilizations, different cultures, not different civilizations, but different cultures, and you get to see the way that the people are living and how they are adapting to their lifestyle, which is their normal. But for us, it's like, wow, look here. Sometimes we complain, as die kas is full, dan worry ourselves, but the freezer is full. Then we want to kick up a record. But me seeing that on that particular day, really, if you have one slice of bread to eat that is clean, that is fresh, you should be grateful. Allah reminds us in Surah Ar-Rahman, and which of the favors of your Lord would you deny, or do you deny? I think at that day, that was just one of the outstanding things, not outstanding things, but something that always stood in my memory and stayed in my memory. And I just thought that I'd share. But we now, by the cover of Imam Shafi, for many of our groups, they are busy renovating by the cover of Imam Shafi, probably for the past 4 to 5 years now, right? So, they weren't able to go into the cover where Imam Shafi himself is buried, but then we would go to the masjid next door, right, where Imam Shafi used to teach his students. So with this virtual tour, alhamdulillah, you would now be able to see some of the pictures that was taken inside of the cover of Imam Shafi prior to the renovations. Sources has told me that they will be completing this year, inshallah. I didn't know if the lockdown has stopped the maintenance at the cover, but as you know, alles gebeur stadig daarso, want die mense is baie arm. So let's talk about Imam Shafi. The Imam's full name is Abdullah Muhammad ibn Idris al-Shafi. He is the only Imam who is related to Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as he belonged to the Qurayshi tribe of Banu Muttalib, which was the sister tribe of Banu Hashim. Imam Shafi was born about 150 years after Hijrah. So there's about a 5-year difference between Imam Shafi and Sayyidina Nafisa that we just spoke about. Sayyidina Nafisa was about 5 years older than Imam Shafi. Imam Shafi was born in Gaza. It was in the year which the great Imam Abu Hanifa passed away, I always used to find a way how to try and get it, who came first and who came where. So a good way to remember it is that Imam Shafi was born in the time that Abu Hanifa passed away. He lost his father during infancy and was raised by his mother under very poor circumstances. His mother, fearing the son's lineage, decided to move to Makkah where their relatives lived. The Imam was very young at the time, probably about 2 years old, I think. It is quoted by some scholars that he was about 2 years old when his mother migrated to Makkah. Therefore, he spent his formative years acquiring religious education in the cities of Makkah and Medina. According to some sources, he memorized the Quran by the age of 7 or 9. His early education was marked by poverty because his mother could not afford to pay the fees for his education. Consequently, instead of participating in the classes, the young Imam would sit on the sidelines and take in awe only by listening to what the teacher was teaching to the other kids in the class. His learning and storing knowledge, even though just by listening, that on occasion when his teacher was unable to take the class, the young Imam would step in and take the class, teaching his fellow students. His teacher was so impressed by his abilities that he took him as a formal student on a complimentary non-fee basis. The Imam used to say about himself, after I finished learning the Quran, I would go to the mosque and sit with the scholars, listening to the sayings of the hadith of Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I used to live in Makkah among 10 dwellers in such a state of poverty that I could not even afford paper to write, so I would write on stones and bones. It is said that at the age of about 15 years old, his teacher gave him permission to issue fatwas. Can you imagine that? At the age of 15 years old, being able to issue fatwas. While him studying in Makkah, Imam Shafi heard about the renowned scholar of Medina, Imam Malik. He wanted to become a student of Imam Malik, yet he saw with his sharp intellect that he would not go to him unprepared. He then memorized the famous book of Imam Malik al-Muwatta in only 9 days. One of the strong qualities of Imam Shafi was that he had a very good memory. In 9 days, he memorized the whole Quran. Hulle wys hom met tyd hier op die sidelines, the producer of the whole show. I think we should, sorry for the interruption, we should give her acknowledgement. As Azra Diedrich, she is the brain behind this whole thing. She was pushing all the time, we need to do the virtual tour, we need to do the virtual tour. And eventually Kanusi Mien to says, okay, we do the virtual tour, right? But getting back now to, so she's pushing me for time. How much time do we have left?
How many tips, Rick?
Okay, we're still good for time, inshallah. So after, where were we? Imam Shafi was finished studying in Medina. His memory. Oh, he's on his way to Medina. Yes, then he wanted to go study. So normally, you would first learn about your local imams, right? Once you have seek knowledge from all the local imam, now if you wanted to, you progress on to another city or country or wherever and you're going to study there. That was the situation of Imam Shafi. Imam Shafi then decides to go to Medina to go and learn under Imam Malik. Beautiful statement that the Imam Shafi's mother tells him. She tells him, before you go and learn the knowledge of Imam Malik, I first want you to go and learn the character of Imam Malik. This was of utmost importance. The character of a scholar should reflect what he is preaching. For that reason, I am so glad I am not a scholar. Nevertheless, that shouldn't have come out. But where were we? Imam Malik, right? So then he goes and studies, and he goes and approaches Imam Malik. He meets Imam Malik and he tells Imam Malik that he has this desire and he'd like to learn under him. And because of his eloquent way of speech, you know, it kind of intrigues Imam Malik. And Imam Malik tells him, why don't you join my class tomorrow, you know, and it's better you bring, remember, this is about 15, 16-year-old teenager. Why don't you bring somebody with you that that will help you read my book, Wata, right? And then Imam Shafi tells Imam Malik that, Imam, I can read it to you myself, you know, and I can read it to you by memory. And Imam Malik was like, wow, you know, that was like a wow factor for Imam Malik. And he then done it. And the Imam was shocked. And Imam Shafi studied under Imam Malik for a period of about 9 years till Imam Malik passed away. I think he passed away in the year 179 after Hijrah. After that, Imam Shafi came back to Makkah. He returned to Makkah, and on his return to Makkah, Imam Malik then, Imam Shafi then gets married to one of the granddaughters of the third Khalifa, Uthman ibn Affan, radiallahu anh. He then goes on and he has 3 children with her, 2 sons, Uthman and Hassan, and a daughter which they named Fatima. Time goes on, and then the governor of Yemen then comes to Makkah. Wow. He then meets Imam Shafi, and then he sees this unique abilities of Imam Shafi. And remember now, Imam Shafi is still young, but he's acquired so much knowledge. And by this time now, he's having circles of knowledge of his own. And the governor then makes a proposal to Imam Shafi and tells him, you know, he will give him the post to be the governor. And Imam Shafi then accepts. Where we now? Governor, yes. Imam Shafi, people that travel with know we normally do this on a bus and all of that, but now it's here and everything has to be like that. My mind has to go like that all the time. So please forgive me if there's pauses within the talks, right? So then Imam Shafi becomes the governor of Yemen, similarly to Abu Hanifa. The only difference, and they suffered political persecution because of their truthfulness and how just they were, right? They didn't synchronize well with the governors at that time. But contrary to what happened to Abu Hanifa, Imam Shafi wasn't subject to torture. Imam Shafi then was arrested and charged with the offense of political interferences in Yemen. The Khalifa at the time, Harun al-Rashid, examined him and examined the situation and found Imam Shafi to be innocent of all the charges. At that time, Imam Shafi said, "Niks meer political posting," and that was the time that he then dedicated his life to teaching and to learning. It was then that he met the great Sheikh Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani, which was one of the prominent students of Abu Hanifa. And while studying with him, he then learned all the books of Sheikh Shaybani and all the teachings of Imam Abu Hanifa. And time goes on. I don't want to bore you too much, but we need to fast forward a bit. Imam Shafi then eventually moves to Egypt, where he dedicates his life now to his students. He then meets Imam Sayyidina Nafisa in Cairo, and it is said that Imam Shafi sat in the circles of Sayyidina Nafisa. So he was one of the students of Sayyidina Nafisa as well. And it is said that he used to lead the Ramadan Salah in the mosque of Sayyidina Nafisa at times. For the people that has been on the travels know that it's not too far from one another. And Sayyidina Nafisa known very well for piety. Whenever Imam Shafi used to get sick, he used to send his students to Sayyidina Nafisa to request for du'as, for shifa. It is said that before the student returned back to Imam Shafi, that Imam Shafi would be cured and he would be well. Until this once when Sayyidina Nafisa said that may Allah grant him peace, and that was a sign that he wasn't going to make it from that illness. Imam Shafi remained and he followed his daily routines until illness forced him to retire and stop teaching. In his last days before his death, the Imam is reported to have said, I feel that I am traveling away from this world, away from my brothers, drinking from the cup of death and approaching Allah the Glorious. By Allah, I do not know if my soul will go to heaven so that I may congratulate it, or it may go to hell so that I may be saddened. Imagine somebody of this caliber worried of whether they will enter Jannah. All his sacrifices, all the years that he spent learning and teaching, on his deathbed, he is worried about his situation. He then went into crying and he became very sick at the end of his life. Imam Shafi kept the company of learned people till the very end of his life. Imam Shafi's burial place, as you know, is in Egypt. One of the things that Imam Shafi says about himself, he says that I enjoy two things, right? The one is acquiring knowledge and the other one was archery. He says that he was so good in archery sport, in other words, he was so good in archery that he will hit the target 10 times out of 10. But because of his humility, he wouldn't speak about his knowledge. A man present there at the time, he says, I swear by Allah, wallahi, that you are more accurate in your knowledge than what you are in your archery. You are more accurate in your knowledge than what you are in your archery. And this was one of the qualities of Imam Shafi. It was his humility. Imam Shafi, they're just showing me the time. How much time left? 15 minutes. Imam Shafi is also reported to have said that once he had a disagreement with one of the students. One of the students had a disagreement with him, and the student left the class and he went home. At night he heard a knock on the door, and then the student asked, who is it? And then the Imam said, Muhammad Idris. And the student couldn't think of anybody that he knows by this name. And when he opened the door, he saw that it was the Sheikh. And he said, how come you here, The Imam was the last person that you thought that would come and visit him. And then Imam Shafi told him that it's a long story that he narrates, but to get to the crux of it, he says that we build bridges, but we do not break bridges. Sometimes our disagreement, right, should be a means of working together and not working against each other. And the Imam makes a funny statement, I will say. He said, our goal is to heal the patient and not wipe him out. Like if somebody's going to go sick to the doctor's going to give him an antibiotic. The doctor can say, okay, they're sick, ons moet hulle doodmaak. So within each and every one of us, sometimes there might not be everything that we like about the person. There might be this one or two bad qualities of that person. It doesn't mean that we have to write the person off completely. It's just that we do not have to acknowledge that one or two bad qualities of them but there's still so many good about them. I think we can move on from here now. Is it time? We still wanted to go through a few things. How much time is left?
About 9 minutes.
Okay, I don't think we can go to our next ziyarah place, but just to share some thoughts. Zubair, you've gone so many times. I said, next you were supposed to have a session.
He's a photographer.
You have been so many times to Egypt. What stands out for you of the ziyarah places in Cairo specifically?
Well, I think every time we go, it's a different experience, and Imam Shafi stands out all the time. You know, not that you addressed it on the last issue, but just the conditions surrounding, of course, the magnitude of the giant of Islam. That's one aspect, but when you come there, you see the facility, you see the area where he was buried, and you realize with all that knowledge and oceans of knowledge and giant of a man, that how humble he was actually to be buried still there the whole time. So that strikes it. And I mean, of course, the people of Egypt, myself and Ibrahim, we always try to think of how, what little that people have, how content they always are. So that is really something that strikes up.
Something that also stands out for me, I will go on the same trend of Zubair, Imam Shafi, he really stands out for me, especially when we go there, the ability, right, that he had, despite his conditions, right, for him still to excel to that great heights that we today are still speaking about him, and people for many years to come is still going to speak about him. And it's something that I personally learned from Imam Shafi was, don't let your circumstances determine your future. Irrespective of what your circumstances are, do not let that keep you down from what you want to become. No matter how bad the situation seems in front of you. Imagine sitting in a class where you're seeing people in a class, but you sitting on the outside and you don't have money, right? Your parents don't have money, and you busy making notes on stones and on bones, and you seeing the others is writing here on paper, whatever they used back then. But yet, in knowledge, he was able to excel so much. So the thing that I take is, don't ever let your circumstances determine your future. Imam Shafi also said that about the surah wa Asr, that if this was the only surah to be revealed in the Quran, that surah would be enough for us. That surah would be enough for us. And did we ever contemplate on it, right? What does it say? Allah says by time. How shouldn't we value time? And then he says, Illa alladhi, no. Innal insana lafi khusr. No? Wa asr, innal insana lafi khusr. That verily man is in loss. He says that you will always be a loser. Can you imagine that? Allah telling you that you will be a loser. And then he makes an exception. Illa alladhina amanu. Except those who believe. For me, this is the surah of success. If you want success in your life, go through the surah. And the very first step is that you need to believe. For whatever you want to achieve, you have to believe it. If anybody else try and put you down, try and tell you you are not worthy, you can't do it, look at you, who are you? If they can say as much as they want to say, the first step is you need to believe. And once you believe, you can achieve greater heights, but you first need to believe it. And then he goes on to say that you need to make action. Illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat. You need to make action, bring action to that you believe in. So if I want to be a great soccer player, my time has passed, but I'm just making the example. I need to go out and I need to go and practice as much as I can. There's so many people that are sitting with so many great ideas. The only problem is they're not making action to what they have up here. And how does it get up here? How does it get up here? It doesn't fall from the sky. Whatever comes to you is given to you directly from Allah. He gives it to you, your thoughts, your ideas, that brilliant ideas come straight to you from Allah. The thing is, we need to make action upon it. We need to make action upon it, and we do need to do it truthfully, and we need to persevere while doing it. So one of the things that always stands out, or that I take for myself from Imam Shafi, is never underestimate yourself. Always know that you are worthy. Don't let anybody else ever make you think that you are less worthy. If you want something, you go for it. And that is what I've learned from Imam Shafi. How many times do we have left? I think for the next few minutes. Okay.
Everyone can unmute.
For the we will be here, inshallah, for the next couple of weeks. We will be doing each city a week, and we will we had some picks more that we wanted to play. Maybe we can play it. While I'm speaking, yeah, we had some beautiful photos of the pyramids. Baie mense was baie bang om op 'n kameel te gaan vir die eerste keer, but they got over it, you know, they came over their fears. We have some of the photos of the Azhar Masjid. We wanted to touch on the Azhar Masjid and the Husseini Masjid. We never had time to do it because our time is kept at 40 minutes. So you can let it go. So next week, inshallah, we will be heading to next week, inshallah, we will be heading to the coastal city of Egypt, known as Alexandria, also known as Scandaria. And now you're looking at one of the wonders of the world, the pyramids.
I just to interject there, I don't know if the people notice, is one thing different of this tour. It wasn't emotions from Ibrahim. That's why maybe they playing the photos now, I see.
Dat was die tyd om te huilie.
But I think it's while the photos are playing, I think it's we say shukran to the people joining in. Alhamdulillah, we didn't expect I see we got a very alhamdulillah good viewing. To be full at least. So that's really good from shukran for joining us.
And all of this came about during the lockdown. We had people calling us and sending us messages asking, can't we make videos and share it with them, because they so much want to speak about the ziyarats, but as you know, a lot of them can't remember all the places that we went to, and they can't remember a bit of the history and so forth and so forth. And then we came up with this and decided to do the virtual tour.
It is beyond a few minutes before the state of